Hello friends, this is Tisha from Meadows and Mortar by Tisha, and today I'm doing this fireplace makeover for a friend. So it started off as this cherry wood covering on here, and it was kind of scratched up. It's a beautiful piece, but she wanted a very specific look for it. Her house has recently got a lot of upgrades, and she wanted this to be just as beautiful and fancy as she is. So the first thing that I wanted to do after I cleaned it really well is I used Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer over this whole piece. Now the 2-in-1 primer works as a blocking primer and a bonding primer, so we don't have to worry about our paint scuffing off of there by accident. Once that we get our paint on, it's going to adhere really nicely, and it's going to give us a lighter color for us to have more of a clear vision of what we want to do with this piece. Now she wanted a very specific color for this piece, and she wanted some leopard print on it, and which sounds really wild and out there, but she has a very eclectic taste, and her house is full of beautiful fancy furniture, and this statement piece is going to be beautiful in her home. So after I get all of it primed really well with that 2-in-1 primer, then I'm adding some resin molds onto the edges. I am going to be adding it to the top and the bottom section on both sides of this, and this is just to give it a little more detail, a little more embellishment on here, because she wanted fancy. Now she wanted this specific green color, but this was a Sherwin Williams color, and I wanted to use Paint Couture paint on this in their chalk style line because I knew that it would look better if it was richened with a black, so I wanted to use Paint Couture's pitch black to blend in with it. And I wanted my paints to be compatible, so I got a hold of Paint Couture paint. I gave them the item number, and they were able to mix that paint for me, and it's the exact same color as that Sherwin Williams paint that she had asked for. So in between coats, you saw I come in with a fine grit sandpaper, and I just lightly wipe across it. I'm not going to sand my finish off, just lightly wiping across it. And then I come in with a water mister bottle, and then I'm just going to mist water all over the surface because this is a chalk style paint, and that chalk is going to soak up the next layer of paint that we put on there. So if we add the water first, it's going to help everything glide nicely. And when I'm using these chalk style paints and I'm doing a blended finish, the most important thing in the process is using good quality synthetic brushes. So you're going to see me use some cling on brushes and some Paint Couture brushes throughout this. Now you saw that I put that green all over this. That's all that first coat was. Well, second coat really. It's just the plain green all the way across it. Now I'm coming in with the pitch black from Paint Couture paint. I'm adding that in, and then I'm just going to toggle back and forth between the green and the black, going up and down, side to side. You'll probably see me do some diagonals, and I'm just really trying to mix these two colors together, and I want to make sure that you can't see where one color starts and one color stops. I'm just wanting to add a darkened feature to the edges of this. Now you saw that was getting a little bit muddied up there, so I come in with more of the green paint, and I'm just hitting the top parts of the mold that I put and then the edges of it so I can really get the effect that I'm wanting. And when I'm doing blended finishes like this, if I have raised areas, I like to keep the dark areas on the outside of the raised areas and then keep the inner part the lighter color. So I'm sort of making like a vignette around everything. Now you see me, I'm just taking the excess of what's left of that black paint, and then that's what I'm going up and down with and side to side on the flat part. I just used just the tips of my brush on that black paint to go over the actual raised area. Now I'm coming back in with that green, and I'm just toggling back over everything, trying to blend it all together really nicely. And then I'm going to come in with a clean, dry brush, and then I'm just going to dust everything together. This is really going to make everything meld together to make it all seamless, so you're not going to see where the green is and the black is. And you can choose where you're wanting to do your blending at. I typically like to go towards the ends of my pieces or the outsides of my pieces and then have the lighter colors on the inside, but you do it however you're wanting. If you're just wanting it over top of the moldings or something like that, that's completely fine too. You just play around with it until you figure out what you want. Now, what I will say is whenever I'm doing a blended finish, I always have a minimum of 2 layers on here. Sometimes it takes me 3 until I get the finish that I'm wanting, and that's completely okay. You all saw what my first coat of my blended finish looked like. It looked like garbage. But you're building on it, you're adding to it, and it's not going to be, that first attempt. You're going to be adding on to it in layers and depth, and I promise it will look good once that you get done. Now I'm adding in some black wax. This is Annie Sloan's black wax, but you can use any kind that you want. I'm just using a small artist brush, and I'm going in the little cracks there to really give it a nice defined look. So this is going to be sort of like your smoky eyeliner if you do makeup. So this is going to go down in the creases, and then I'm going to get a bigger brush, and then I'm going to really dust everything out and make it nice and smoky. So just take your tiny artist brush, just ride those crevices, try not to get it outside of the lines, and then you're going to come in with that bigger, fatter brush, and then you're really going to just bring everything out. This is going to smudge it out. This is going to buff it out a little bit, so you're not going to have some excess residue in there. Just remember, a little goes a long way with black wax. I have a tin of black wax that I've been using for, I think I'm on my 4th year of this one large can of black wax. So please keep in mind, it does not take a lot to do detail work. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other parts of it. I'm just riding in the creases and crevices, and then I'm going to take my bigger brush, and then I'm going to kind of buff it out and make it a little bit smokier of an outline from there. Whenever you're doing black waxes as a detail, please, please, please don't use too much. Now keep in mind, I'm using this on raw paint. And if you make a mistake, you're not going to be able to correct it. So if you feel more comfortable using the black wax at the end, because the manufacturer does say to use the wax last, then you can seal it first with Paint Couture's Extreme Guard, and then you can come in with your black wax. I just prefer to use it on raw paint. I've done it a lot. I don't make that many mistakes. But if you're not comfortable with it, then you may want to come in with your sealer first. Have you all tried foils from Artistic Painting Studios? If not, this is your sign to do it. So I'm coming in with their foil adhesive, and I'm going to put it all in this recessed area. Now, whenever you're using Artistic Painting Studios foils, you have to use this adhesive first, and then you have to let it dry until it turns clear. But please note, this does not self-level. So if you have big chunks in it, like big gunky areas, a lot of brush strokes, it will show through at your final finish. So try to make it as smooth as you possibly can. Now, whenever this dries, it's going to dry clear. You're looking at probably an hour or so until it dries, and it will stay tacky indefinitely. It will never get untacky once that it dries. This is not something that you can keep out for 3 months and then it would finally crust over and not be sticky anymore. This will be sticky for eternity. So you want to make sure that you give it at least an hour to dry or till it turns clear, and then we can come in with our foils and put over top of it. Just please remember to use enough of it to where your foils will be able to stick and to come back and forth like that, like you can see me doing right there, to really even everything out so you don't have a lot of brush strokes. Artistic Painting Studios has hundreds of different designs. My client wanted a leopard print, and so I bought a leopard print as soon as she said that. I was like, I know exactly what I want to buy. I tested it on a piece of board to make sure that I knew what I was doing, because it had been a while since I had used this, and then I just used the excess here to put on the mantle. So once that you get it on there, you want to smooth it out with your fingers, and then you want to use some sort of a brush. So this is a scrubber that you would use for like a bathroom, or you could use a nail file, just something that you can really scrub this on there and get the foil to stick to the adhesive. Once that you get it all scrubbed on there really nicely, then you're going to start pulling back that backing sheet. If you pull back on your backing sheet and you realize that part of it has not stuck down, but there is the adhesive underneath it, you can see I just lay it right back down and then I scrub back over it again, and then it will stick eventually. And sometimes it may take 3 or 4 tries for you to pull back and then scrub again and then pull back and scrub again, and that's completely okay. Like I said, that adhesive stays sticky forever and ever and ever, so you can put that foil down at any time, then start scrubbing and it will stick on there. And I just want to take this opportunity to ask you guys, if you're not following me already, to please follow me. I am here on YouTube, and I'm also on Facebook. It's Meadows and Mortar by Tisha. I would love to have you all around. The more you interact with my posts, the more content that I get to bring. And even if you don't like the color schemes that I use, maybe you might be able to learn some techniques or learn some new products that you would like to try. And just because it's not exactly what you want doesn't mean that you can't benefit from it. And I would love to have you guys around with me. And also, if you're interested in any of the Paint Couture products that I use, or if you're interested in any of the Cling On brushes, I will put a link in the description box for you to get those. And it's free of charge for you, as far as you're not going to get charged any extra by using my affiliate link. It just lets Paint Couture know that you used my videos to find them. Now I'm going to come in with Paint Couture's Extreme Guard. This is my absolute favorite top coat. I'm using the one in flat on this, and you can see the different sheen color that it's going to give me, because remember, I use that chalk style paint, so it's going to be a flat paint, but it has that chalky feel to it whenever you touch it. Not as bad as an Annie Sloan paint does, because that's a super gritty texture, but it does have a chalkier feel to it, and I don't particularly like that feel that much, but I love to paint with the chalk style paints because I love the way that they blend. So I come in with this Extreme Guard. I'm going to go over everything good, and I'm going to do 2 coats of it just to make sure that I've not missed any spots, because remember, that chalk style paint is very porous and it will soak up any top coat that I put on there. Another thing that I want to note is that, remember, I use those decorative black waxes to accentuate the areas, and if you don't feel comfortable doing that in the order that I've done, you can switch that and you could do your top coat first before the black wax. Now I come in with some gilding wax. This is the aged brass gilding wax. This is from Redesign with Prima, and I'm just using a tiny little bit, and I'm going to go over the tops of some of the decorative pieces, some of the end pieces, just to give it a little bit of shimmer and highlight some of those areas. As you can see, the inside of that leopard print, it has silvers and that bronzy color, so I thought that this would really bring it all together. And I've also done multiple other pieces for this client, and she has an open concept house, and I used this color on some of her hardware on her other pieces, so I was hoping that these would really tie in well together. That's why I chose the color foil that I did from Artistic Painting Studios, so everything can really be nice and cohesive in her home. Most of the stuff in her home is solid colors, like blacks with a lot of fancy trims and embellishments, and this is going to be a beautiful statement piece. This matches her personality perfectly, and I really do love the way that it turned out. And she loves it now that it's in her home, and I am just tickled that she chose me to do this. I hope that it's inspired you. If you haven't tried some of these products before, give them a shot. They're fun to use, guys. And I'll see y'all next time.